Welcome, everybody, to Self Care. I am so excited to be here today and to welcome my new friend, Elizabeth Ward Land, and to share a little bit about Elizabeth. Before we get started, like you get to actually see her live. And I'm activating Instagram right now. There we go. So, Elizabeth Wardland is known for her versatility across the entertainment industry with a varied career that encompasses musicals, plays, concerts, voiceovers, commercials, film, and television. And I'm gonna pause on her professional bio for a minute. So we met when I was on my honeymoon with my husband on a cruise and got to had the privilege actually of seeing her on stage singing the songs of Linda Ronstadt, and then the next day we were given the gift of listening to her speak and sing about moon magic. And I mean, like, she is delightful. I mean, she is delightful. And so I'm like, Elizabeth, can you join me in my podcast? She's like, yes. And I'm like, yes. so, so that's how this all happened. And so then I want to share the rest of her professional bio. She was on Broadway. She appeared in the original cast of Amazing Grace as Mrs. Catlett, Scandalous Luella Parsons, The Scarlet Pimpernel. Please forgive me if I am not pronouncing some of these things. She was Marie in all three versions, and she was in Memphis, Passion City of Angels as a featured soloist in the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber, which is amazing, starring Michael Crawford at the Radio City Music Hall and Royal Albert Hall in London. Crap. So off-Broadway credits include The Bedwetter at the Atlantic Theater Company, Southern Comfort, the Public Theater, Curvy Window, West Side, the Green Heart Manhattan Theater Club, Hello Again in Lincoln Center, and Chess. Liz starred in the national tour of The Prisoner of Second Avenue, Edna, opposite Hector Elizondo, as well as oh my goodness, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. She was the Baroness, and the Scarlet Pimpernel as in Les Miserables. I can never pronounce that one, so sorry. And as Kathy Selden in Singing in the Rain. There is so much more. One of the cool things I want to say is she worked also with, and she sings the songs of Linda Ronstadt, which is how we all came here. She also worked with Barbra Streisand, who I have grown up to know and love. From afar, of course. And so, but without further ado, instead of listening to all this, which is amazing, I'd rather you have the experience of Elizabeth Ward Land. And so let me bring Elizabeth on. Hello.
Hello. Yes, that's the longest bio in the history of the world because that's off my website. So yeah, it's all there. Anybody, if you want to know, yeah.
And it's amazing. You have such a stage presence, and and the reason you have such a stage presence is because of the joy that you bring in doing what you do. You can't have the stage presence unless you have the joy behind it, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially if you get to where I am in life, and if you don't really like to do it anymore, there's really no reason to do it because there's no. I mean, it's just a nearly impossible profession, show business. And so I do when I get the chance, especially if I have a captive audience, I joke about it in my Linda Ronstadt show, but. I mean, ever since I was a little girl, my favorite thing to do is to stand in my house and pretend I'm giving a concert. So, I mean, what could be bad on a ship? I'm taking a world-class vacation and I have hundreds of, thousands of people sitting there listening to me sing. And it's really been fun. It's been a fun end of career little kind of lark to go out and I always meet someone interesting. And you are the celebrity ascent guest of honor in that slot. Always meet someone interesting.
Well, and so here's the thing, I do too whenever I go, because it's like, it we choose, right? We choose how we want to present ourselves, and we choose how we want to show up, and we choose if we want to really attract our tribe into our world. And so, and that's for me, that's where the joy is. And I remember at the beginning, my husband used to, when we were just getting to know each other, it's like, you're always the last one to leave. I'm like, yes. Like I am the last one to leave because I want to meet that cool person and really get to know who they are,
Right,
So,
right,
yeah. And not really the cool person, it's the person whose heart resonates with my heart. Yeah.
right. Well, it was fascinating to me that you two stopped me as I was. So you guys, I think you came to the first show and I had a whole nother second show to do that night.
Yeah.
And you stopped me and you said, are you an energy worker? You're an energy worker, right?" And I was like, "Okay, Liz, are you going to own this?" And I was like, "Uh-huh." "Yes, I am." And so that was fascinating. So I was like, "Oh, she saw you. She sees you."
Mhm,
Like,
mhm. I do
yeah,
see you, and I
yeah,
did see you because, like, it was clear to me. I'm like, "Wow,"
yeah.
and so it's so much fun for me. I mean, I remember, this is when I first moved to Georgia, which is only, just a little over 2 years now. There was a woman walking, past in, the botanical gardens, and I stopped her. I'm like, "Hey, you," because I get called by God or called by spirit to,
Right,
like, you need to know this person, right?
right. Well, and I get stopped. Um, and I have my whole life. And
Oh.
I can turn it off.
Mhm.
Like if I don't want to be stopped, like if I don't want to shimmer, but owning my shimmer has been part of my evolution definitely as a person, and that I know that I can. I mean, I if I really harness my energy and I really focus, I can make people's heads turn. Anyone can. Anyone can.
If
But I
we shine our own inner light.
if you shine your light. And so I was like, so like, and also like, so I have a life in show business, so then I am achieving my goal because I want someone to notice me
Mhm.
and want to
Right,
know my story.
right.
Right. So it's kind of
And you
boring.
are a storyteller.
Yeah.
Because I asked you, I said, "What's your purpose in life?"
Oh, tell stories with the sound of my voice. I know it now.
Yeah.
But that's been, I feel really lucky to have gotten to do it. And I trained as an act just as an actor, but I had this very extensive music background too, because my mom was a music teacher, and I played a lot of instruments, and always had this natural voice. But what I really wanted to do was tell stories. And like Linda Ronstadt, I've have a versatility about me, and then I've done it in a lot of different ways, and that why metaphorically Linda Ronstadt is a good fit for me too, because she's kind of just tried she liked to do what she was doing, so she kind of tried it in every way, shape, or form. And
Like, she held no bounds.
she didn't yeah she held no bounds. And so one of the things that when I first started, I mean, the whole Linda Ronstadt show came out of me challenging myself to get out of my own way.
Yes. Oh, talk about that, would you please? Because that's I mean
Yeah, well, I was at a point. I had turned 50. I was still in the musical. I was still making a living on Broadway. I have a very long marriage, just some background, a very long marriage. So that part of my life was all fun. But I definitely had some career frustration. And I was looking at, like, I really needed to do something for probably at least another decade or 10 to 15 years realistically, if I if my energy level was going to stay at the same, the energy and the creativity level that I was feeling. I felt like I was bursting with creativity and I had nowhere to put it. Not
wow.
because I didn't get hired. I got hired all the time, but not really in anything that showed what I thought was special about me. I think it was right after I was doing Amazing Grace, which was a piece that I had been involved with from its conception, from the very first workshop and then taking it out of town, this biggest Chicago tryout, and moving into Broadway, and it couldn't run, and I was making a very nice paycheck. Didn't sing a note in that show, by the way.
Which is
And
crazy because your voice
right.
is
And so I was
amazing.
like, well, when am I going to have the job that's going to show what I think I still have? And I was like, oh, gosh darn it, I'm going to have to make it myself.
Mhm.
And so I kind of dared myself to get out of my own way. And I was already really, I was I set up a spiritual practice for myself, basically a daily pep talk to the phases of the moon. I'd always been kind of a moon lover, been interested in the moon. It definitely has a feminine energy. I was not a religious person, but a very spiritual person, and I was kind of looking for a everyday practice. And so through this I just followed my instincts about it. And I kept daring myself to get out of your own way. Okay, so if you could make the job of your dreams, what would it be? I was like, well, somewhere where I'm going to sing all the time, and everybody's going to tell me how good my voice is and how pretty I am, and I get to play all my instruments and sing with my friends. And that's exactly what I did. In the big version of my show, I have two friends come and sing with me because Linda Ronstadt was a very famous collaborator. She had collaborations with Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton, James Ingram, Aaron Neville. I don't get to do that on the ship because I have 45 minutes to tell a very career. Anyway, that's why I created this Linda Ronstadt show for myself, just really out of creative frustration. I was teaching a lot at the time, and I could tell that my voice had found a very comfortable pocket. Our voices are part of our physical being, and
all day.
They
I
do.
mean, you can actually use the hum of your voice to heal any part of your body.
Right. And and I notice if I am depressed or not ready to get over something yet, I don't sing, because I know if I sing, I'm going to vibrate at a frequency so high that my physical body will not be able to be sad anymore.
I get it.
So then I'm just, if I'm not done with my wallowing, I don't sing. And
right.
Then the minute I sing, I'm like, okay, it's moved out. It's almost like I've used the sound of my voice to get rid of it. And I have started incorporating the sound of my voice in how I do release things, and the way I also manifest things. And that's part of the whole manifestation process is the verbalization of things. As the more you speak things to yourself, the more you just train your mind to think that way. And so I would dare myself. I would say, okay, so if you had no limitation, so if you had no budget, and if you had no, what would you dream this thing could be? And I was like, well, I would be telling stories with the sound of my voice all over the world. And I would meet fascinating people, and I would make enough money and I would get enough rewards in all the other abundant ways that I would have the safety of that until the end of my career, until I don't need to have an income anymore. And don't you know, that's just basically what I did.
I teach people how to do this.
Right.
This is what I do. And I'm sitting here in awe, because what you did, which, it takes a lot of practice, is you listened to your inner voice. And then, because you're listening to your inner voice and your higher self and source energy, right, you're able to bring in the manifestation of your dreams. And they can actually, it shows up different for everybody. But for me, there are things that I need, and they actually give me a step-by-step process. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and I've really seen it happen, and I've seen oh wow, I had forgotten. Something will come, I'll get a phone call or something will happen. I go, oh, I forgot about this one. This was 8 months ago, and it's almost nearly exactly what I said. Now, it doesn't always come in the form that you think it's going to. That's what I've also learned. But the abundance does show up, and it's living in the abundance of your life. I mean, if you love your life and the life you're creating, and you say that all the time, you're going to vibrate that way, and that's the way it's going to come in. I mean, I have some nasty days, believe me.
Oh, we all do. I had a conversation with Spirit last night that I kind of created some boundaries. So no, I hear you.
And the Moon Magic show came out of, because, I mean, I'll do cliff notes. So my Linda Ronstadt show took off, and then I had the pandemic, and 2 years of oh, wow, that's really mean. I was soaring, and I got kind of pulled out of the sky. And who wasn't mad? Who wasn't? And but I kept believing. And I had a lot of friends who were like, no, your Linda Ronstadt show is made to do on the ships. And it's so get your stuff together, but you're going to need a second show, because you get hired on the ship to come on and be part of their entertainment roster for that week. And so you need to have 2 products for them to choose from, as you saw on the Celebrity Ascent. So I did the big night, and then the next day I did in that fabulous club, the Moon Show. everybody was
You're
just like,
brilliant.
everybody was like, just do a Broadway, just do it, sing your favorite Broadway songs and, call it a day. Just get the tracks done and get the charts done. And I was like, oh, I just can't. If I'm going to do it, I have to want to do it. And it has to be very authentic to me, or I don't want to spend my time doing this.
Yeah, you needed to have your imprint, your personal brand, your
Right.
personal imprint, your personal story completely attached to it, because that is what drove everybody in.
Yeah. And so I was like, if I do something that something else, it's not gonna be authentic to me. So I was like, so what do you love? So you love your husband and your family, and then Linda Ronstadt. Then what's next? And I was like, well, actually, the moon is right up there. And so I dared myself. Okay, so if you weren't scared about everybody thinking you're, witchy or a weirdo, what would the show be? And I was like, it'd be the other big part of my life, which I spend a lot of time on this. I do have a practice where I stand at an altar that I've made of that is just of cherished things of mine. And I basically give myself a pep talk every day. Now I have, certain rituals that are private to me, but that's basically what it is. I mean, it's the same, it's prayers, it's chants, it's the use
Yeah,
of
whatever it is
crystals,
that's for you, that
whatever's
lights you
for
up.
you.
Right.
And I do it with the cycles of the moon and the particular energies to the moon. And I really saw it kick in the way things came back to me, because the energy, I was just more in tune and in tempo, if you would, if I'm really being a metaphor for my show, with what the moon was telling me to do. And so I decided to do this show, and I did it for my second show. And it just tickles me that this was like not my throwaway show, but this was my secondary show. But I really, really like it. And I've had the times that I've done it, I've had so many people. I had this one gentleman on a cruise, and he had lived many years. And um and one of the things I love about the ship is that there are people still traveling despite a lot of physical um uh, not in the best physical shape, but they're still traveling, and that's what the
Right,
ship
because the
allows
ship
them to
actually
do.
allows for that.
Allows it. And it always warms my heart. And so this gentleman who had lived many, many years came up to me after my moon show, and he's like, you know what? I went home and I looked up the phases of the moon, and I didn't know all the specifics of them, and I will never forget this night. And I was just like, as
Mhm.
an artist, what more could I have wanted from my, like that someone who'd lived all these years and didn't know this information, I added something to his life.
Well, you added to mine, and I had bought this book before I
Just
met you, this Moon Magic book last year, because I really, okay, you don't get to chew on, okay, oh, she wants to ask a question. That's what
okay,
she does, okay.
baby.
But I bought this book before I met you about a year ago, because I wanted to learn more about the moon and the impact. But she has a question, and I think I already accused you that she runs the show. So
Yes.
what is it that you want to ask Elizabeth? Well, I was getting there. She says, I would like to understand. Well, she goes, can I understand the phases of the moon? How do I use the moon to manifest what I want to create in my life? And which phase of the moon is your favorite and why? Does that
Oh,
cover that? Okay, there she goes.
okay.
So I said she runs this. So go ahead.
Okay, okay. So you can use that you if you learn yourself, so that we have 8 phases of the moon. There are 4 primary and 4 secondary. The primary ones are the new moon, first quarter,
Mhm.
full moon, and last quarter. And those phases last for just an instant and move into the next phase. But they are the earmarks of where we turn the corner in our phases. And you if you're looking up at the moon,
Okay.
from the new moon, we'd almost see no moon. Like
So I'm going to
the
get a picture of that up. So you want me to show a new moon, or
yeah,
I'll
new
show the
moon
phases of the
is,
moon.
and a new moon, and it's so the amount of light that we see of the moon is in direct relationship to where the earth and the sun are in to the moon, and how much light is reflected from those 2 things onto the moon. And so the new moon, they're all in direct line, so we see almost nothing, sometimes just a little rim. And that's a momentary. And but the new moon is when you set your intentions, and by intentions I mean, like, what do I want to, I always say, where am I going to find the magic this month? What magic am I
Mm,
going to discover this month? Now, I'm in a process of healing. So here's an example. So this month has been a month of healing for me. So my goals this month have been not so lofty, like maybe career-wise, but these are more to be just I'm happy and healthy, and I'm allowing my body the time to heal. So I'll say that every day. This new moon was in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is all about our community and about the collective. So I've been trying to find ways of being a better community member or a better caregiver,
Hmm.
by helping my mother, my husband. So I'm caregiving without ego this month. So I'll say things like that. It could also be like, I'm enjoying driving my brand new red car. So you could even ask for that much, but you need to also put it in ways as if it's already happening. That's your best bet. Or I intend.
Right. So what I learned is when we are manifesting, we manifest as it exists already in the in our current
Right.
reality.
Like I'm so if I'm trying to lose weight, I feel so great that I'm taking care of myself and watching and cutting back on my calories and seeing how good that makes me feel. So like you're already doing it.
Right. I found a better image.
Oh,
So,
yes. So there's new moon. And then we quickly go into our waxing crescent, and so you can see from the pictures, so the we're going to start seeing the bits of the moon building from right to left. So
okay.
right. So if you looked up at the moon and you saw that there was light starting from the right, that's our waxing crescent. In my show for the new moon, I use Olivia Newton-John's "You Have to Believe We Are
Oh,
Magic." So that's all this magic. Like we're gonna take this
her voice
ride.
is amazing.
Oh, you're sweet.
I'm like, Jody, you can't sing with her because you'll
You can
ruin it for
always sing.
everybody else.
I enjoy the sounds of every voices. And
So
then
the
I
woman
moved.
I introduced you to, Michelle Froge, who's the rock star coach, she belts out like it's nobody's business. And she was on stage Friday night. My husband and I went to go see her, and there was an energy, that the vibration that made me think of you.
Yeah, I saw I did see, I watched a little bit of her of the video, and I was like, oh, I can see why I would remind you of her.
Yeah, I mean, that video didn't come out very well, and it didn't really even capture much, quite frankly. It didn't capture the essence of who she is. But like, I'm like, I don't know how these two are supposed to work together, but there's something,
Isn't it
you
interesting?
know.
Isn't it interesting?
So, but anyway, so
So then we move into our waxing crescent, the famous crescent moon, and it's on the
mhm,
right. No, but all most of the crescent moons that we see, like in folklore or art, are almost always the waning crescent, which is on the other side because it's where they draw it on the left to have somebody sitting on it or whatever. But waxing crescent is this building phase where I use the title of my show, Moondance.
okay,
Coincidentally, I originally called my show Moon Magic. But when I did it at Paper Mill Playhouse last year here, they changed my title and kind of didn't talk to me about it. And I was like, oh, why you changed my title? And they thought they just picked one of the songs from that they didn't know. And I thought, well, if I'm not, I'm going to try to keep my ego in check and think, okay, like, so why did they change my title? And I thought maybe it's a happy accidents. So I now say that we're going to do this dance with the moon. And it also helped with some of the marketing things because I do sing this next song, which is Van Morrison's Moon Dance. And that's when you're
so
going to
sing
kind
a
of,
little bit of that for us, if
well,
you don't.
it's a marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars up above in your eyes. Almost like this. So we're picking up the tempo now. Like, okay, what do I want this month? What juicy bits of life can I choose? And that's this feel of moon dance. And that's our waxing crescent. And then we go into our first quarter, which is our first half moon. So the one half of the moon is lit up from the right, and that's at one of those primary phases that only lasts a minute. And in my show, I combined
Can I ask a
somewhere.
question about
Yes.
that? Okay, so you said only lasts about a minute.
Oh, an instant. Well, because remember that the moon, all of these things are always moving. The sun is the moon rotates around the earth, and the earth rotates around the sun. So
Okay.
we've got constant movement. So nothing ever stops. We don't ever go, new moon. We go,
Right.
new moon, waxing
Right, the
crescent.
nanosecond, and so what we're feeling sometimes, and, we'll come right back, I'll just skip for, like, when there's a full moon, there's, like, I know I've known for all my life that a lot of women give birth on a full moon, because the full moon, as I understood it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, controls the water, and so the water bursts. But what I'm kind of understanding from what you're sharing is that that energy's building up as
Yes.
we approach these phases.
Right. And especially this,
Okay.
so this waxing phase from new moon to full moon, we're going to wax, which means to grow. So you're going to grow your intentions. You're going to grow your energy. What are the magical things you'd like to welcome into your life this month? And those are going to grow for these days up until the full moon. And the full moon is mid-cycle. And actually, the moon rotates around the earth in a cycle of 29 and a half days, not 30. 29 and a half, but for our purposes we
Yeah.
always say 30. That's why some months have 31, because it's really not even. So the primary phases only last an instant, and then they go into the neck to a secondary phase and an intermediate phase, and those last for almost 2 weeks, for a week
Oh,
and then a week. So we have a week of waxing crescent, and then we go to the first quarter, this half moon, and then we go into the waxing gibbous. And the gibbous, Gibbous,
which is where we are today.
yeah, we're in a waxing gibbous because we have a full moon this weekend. Good for you. Good for you. And gibbous means more than a semicircle, but not quite full, or
Okay.
having a hump. So you're over the hump, you're almost to the full moon. And in my show, Waxing Gibbous is I Put a Spell on You. That's the song, I Put a Spell on You. And it was one of the things that I thought, oh God, am I going to get away with this? Because that's when so waxing gibbous is when you're really ramping up your intentions. And meanwhile, I'm saying these every day. I'm taking just a moment for myself and I'm
Wow.
saying them. And I'm saying them in verbiage as if they're already happening.
So you know what? That's brilliant. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing this for a second. So, okay, that's brilliant, because I had many intentions, but I have a certain intention, and I'm not going to go into it on the show, but a certain intention that I know that I needed to wrap up. And today, I just found out it was a waxing gibbous. I really didn't know what it meant, and I'm like making that happen. Like I'm like putting it all into place, and I'm like almost nanosecond by nanosecond, right?
Right. And so, it encourages you. So say, I don't know, like if I'm saying I'm enjoying having a full-time job that utilizes all the things that I think are special about me. Okay, so I might be unemployed. But so what actions can I take during this waxing phase to take the steps? Because you got to take steps too. It can't all just be in your head. And as I said, I say it out loud, and it's just a few minutes of a moment. I say these things. I say I welcome transformation, I welcome growth, I welcome abundance. I know what I need and I am ready. That's what I say, and then I list my things.
Hmm.
And then on the night before the full moon, I take that list of things that I have said, all because I write them down,
Me
and
too.
I add the element of fire to it, and I light my list, and I light it outside right before the moon is full, because our full moon is when we're going to release, but the moment before the full moon is like when all these attentions are bubbling up, and then you let them go, and then you're like, okay, universe, they're
Well, I
yours.
call that burning letters.
Right, so I burn my letters.
But I used to use but I never did it in conjunction
Well,
with the full moon.
try it with your moons now. And as I said, so you have 2 weeks to ask for what you want,
Mhm.
ask yourself what you want. And I've also learned that the more I say it, the more I verbalize it, the more I streamline the things I want, because I'm having to actually verbalize them. So sometimes I'm like, ooh, why are you tripping over those words? Do you really want this thing? And
So
then at
you're
the
saying
nine,
you're tripping over the words. What does that mean? That there's a
sometimes like they don't come
block?
out of my mouth. Like when I'm saying them, they don't come out clearly. I'm like, oh, what's
'Cause
that
there's a
about?
block.
A block. Right.
Right,
So
there's
like,
a block, there's an energetic block or a frequency that needs to be removed in order for you to
be
manifest
able
what
to
you
say
want
it.
to
Right. So it's
see.
like, so it's like something's not ringing true, because it's not happening. Right. So then we have our full moon, and full moon. I mean, statistically, there is no statistical evidence that there is more crime or babies born, but any ER doctor will tell you that there are.
Right.
And so the full moon has this duality of really of taking all the, you know, your the things you're asking for and sending them out and then releasing them. And then this whole next 2 weeks becomes our waning phase. We quickly go into waning gibbous.
Okay, let's take a look at that. So
So now
that is
we're going to
here.
start losing our light from the right side. So we're only going to be left up on the left side after our full moon. And these are our waning phases. And the theory on this is that in order to welcome some things in, you've got to make some space. So what can you let go? And this is a really this is the hard phase. I mean, I'm much better just energetically in knowing what I want and what I'm trying to get, but I've learned throughout the years that the waning phase is the key for me to make
Well,
to make the
funny that you
space.
say that,
Mhm.
because so I'm my astrologer, Tinkerbell. What is it you want to say, honey? Can you hold on 1 second for that, and then we'll. Okay, hold on. Let me just hear what she has to say. I'm doing it. Okay, my astrologer says that I'm a purger. So meaning I'm constantly letting go so that I can open up new doors.
It's a very good trait, letting go.
Well, and it encompasses more than just letting go of, let's say friendships or concepts and thought forms. It's also about the concept of surrender, right? And surrendering to who you are supposed to be versus who you thought you were supposed to be, right?
Right.
Surrendering to God's will, source energy's will, who ultimately knows what you're supposed to do.
Right. Right.
Okay, so she's got what else, honey? Do you want to come over? You can fly. You've got wings. Go
Let me
ahead.
see you, Tinkerbell.
Yeah. So she's the sweet cherry. She actually rules the roost here.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
sweetie.
Tinkerbell, you gonna come over here or not yet? Not yet, she said. She's also she tends to have a lot of open portals on her body that we close all the time. So it makes her susceptible to energy. So it's hard for her to like perch on someone else because she's so energy sensitive. Do you need to have those closed? Hold on. Put you oof. Okay. So come over when you're ready. Portals will close. You should be fine. So
Well, so in the waning phase, it's really about letting things go, grudges, bad habits, thought patterns,
mhm.
even just actual things,
Yeah, stuff like
thought
donate.
stuff. Yeah, and in my show, this song is for the waning gibbous is "Once in a Very Blue Moon," which is a kind of a country song about like, oh, I only think about you every once in a while. And then we go to our last quarter, so our a half moon, but on the left side now.
Mhm.
And then that's the last of our primary phases, and then
Is that
into
this
the
one, the waning quarter? Or
yeah, the waning quarter, yeah, or the last quarter, it's often sometimes called, and then waning crescent. And the waning crescent is I kind of joked about it in the show, but it's always this kind of like period of like, oh God, like are we ever going to get to ask for things again, or like what is it deep down that I could let go? And I use a Jimmy Webb song called "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress," and it's this theory in my show is this theory of like the moon is the moon belongs to everyone, so the moon is doing this dance with everybody all over the world. If we all are really out there, talking to the moon every night and telling the moon what we want, which that's what you have to do. You have to
this
say
is a
these
new
things out
practice for
loud.
me. I
This is
mean,
you
I'm
have to
telling
say
you.
these things out loud.
Right.
And so in the waning phase, what I try to do in the waning phrase is akin to my waxing phrase. I still try to keep them in the same vein, but I try to verbalize them in the way as if I've already let them go. How great that I'm not obsessing about that anymore, I'll say. It's so freeing to not be obsessing about such and such and such. So I may have been asking for it, so I try to like have the flip side of the things. But I joke in the live show that like that the waning crescent is like, oh God, you're at the high school dance, and the one person that you want to ask you to dance does not pick you for this dance, and you have to stand there and watch them dance with somebody else, like the moon is dancing with somebody
Mhm.
else, and the song that they start is Freebird, and it's the 13-minute version, and you have to watch this, and you're like, oh my god, is this ever going to be over? Or a life in show business of I mean, being really close to some big things and then like not getting in them, and this real like oh, utter disappointment, like, okay, when is it going to be my turn? Which is the wrap up of my whole world with this, is because I know it works, because what I ended up doing through this weird practice of mine is I surrendered ideas of what I thought my career was supposed to be,
Right.
and my disappointments, and any ways that I felt I had disappointed other people about it, because the pride that I feel in the things that I created out of my own grit
Mhm.
and out of my own world for myself, to take care of myself, because of all the things that I had learned in my life in show business, has given me a sense of pride that I could never that I could not replicate in by doing anything else. And so I got out of my own way. I got out of my own way. It came late. But now whatever happens, I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of my life in show business, which is what I wanted. I just thought it was going someone else was going to give it to me.
No, you actually have to go and take it.
Yeah, and I took it for myself, and I'm proud that I took care of myself in that way, because I am keenly aware that I don't have forever left. And I want to spend as little time feeling bad about myself moving forward as I possibly can. And so I give myself this talk every day, because it does fill a part of my day, and the energy that I create when I do it lingers. So the majority of the time before the icky, creepy thoughts come in, I get to
Mhm.
spend in this way of trying to make myself better. And
Well,
it's been fascinating to study. And it's an authentic love of mine. And so I'm just excited when anybody, and I get to sing some really great songs about the moon.
oh,
So
you get it. It's amazing. It's interesting that you talk about authenticity, and that you are it's not gonna just come to you. You actually have to take it. You actually have to, if you want a thing, whatever that thing is, you actually have to request it and take it from, bring it into your field from the universe. And so, um, ironically, I got that message the last 2 days. So, I don't. So I'm just going to share a brief story. So which you might know some of it, maybe not. I don't. I'm not sure that I shared this. So I was disabled for 4 years,
mm,
and prior to that, I was on 50 medications, misdiagnosed by the Western Medical Club. I call it the WMC, and which is why I cater to the mental health community in what I do, because I believe I'm here to teach them to do things a little differently. Meaning, first of all, look at the organ that you treat, right? Look at the brain. So before you give a diagnosis, and of course, I had asked for that back in 1997, and they said there was no way to look at the brain. There was no blood test to give the diagnosis of bipolar and schizophrenia. And I followed their narrative for 2 decades. And then I had mentioned earlier, prior to the show, that both parents died 18 months apart, which broke me. And so at the time, and which was a gift, because I had to really look at what I was doing, right? Because now I can't function. I go on disability, and I reverse all these conditions that were created as a result of being on these medications.
mm,
Because prior to that, I was a bodybuilder. and I
Mm-hmm.
weighed about 120, 125 pounds, and I bench pressed 185.
Mm.
And so I was physically fit, but I also had the standard American diet, the SAD diet. And so while my father made me protein shakes in the morning, I had, I don't know how many hostess ho hos, ding dongs, and Twinkies before the gymnastics workout, right? So it was just like silly. It was a silly dichotomy. And so I reversed all these conditions using food as medicine, energy healing, became an energy healer. And the other day, I can't make it up the stairs. My knees aren't working. My back hurts. And it's like I'm feeling like I did when I was disabled. And pardon my French, I'm not going to use the French, but F this. And so I yelled out to spirit and I said, I am not here to suffer. I am not here to suffer anymore. And so if you want me to publish the book, I said, remove this from my field. I'm done. And I said, and I'm not interested in anything other than joy, peace, happiness, and abundance in all those areas. And I woke up, the inflammation was gone, my knees were fine, my back pain was gone. Like everything. I had to take it from the universe and state it as not as a request, as a flipping demand about what I was willing to experience here on earth ever again.
Mm.
I'm not willing to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was used as an experiment for 2 decades. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like done with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and it was interesting. And so and I had a conversation with my girlfriend from, one of the associations of natural health. And I'm like, the message is there's 2 things. One, you have to ask and actually demand what you want from the universe. Tell them this is what you expect. And because I pulled a card and I can't find it right now. I pulled a card for myself yesterday, and it was about integrity. And I'm like, if anybody knows me, I'm integrious. Like that's my get like that, like integrity is like huge for me. Like on my tombstone, which I'll be buried under a tree, but but it would say integrity, right? And what God was trying to tell me was, yeah, you're integrous, but you haven't been integrous about what you're unwilling to stand for anymore. And you haven't stated it. So we're not going to give it to you until you belt it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did. And so I received.
Right.
And so it was no surprise that you said this. And I'm like, yeah, because unless you're willing to ask for it, I'm sorry, it's not coming.
Right. And it's really where you put your energy. If you're putting your energy towards like this is what the way I want to feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what will bring to you. If you're concentrating on like how shitty you feel, you're going to feel shitty. But you're concentrating like I will not feel that. I'm not having that. I'm not having that, and yeah, it's it's it, I think we're going to
The
discover a lot
frequency was
about
still in my field. That was the issue. The
yeah,
frequency from 2013,
right.
11 years ago,
Sure,
was
sure.
still in my field. And so we pulled that out of my field.
Fascinating.
Mhm.
Fascinating. I'm very, very lucky. I've had no big health things. And so, but it is so important what we put in ourselves.
All day.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was the other thing that I didn't share, Elizabeth, is except I'm yelling last night at Spirit. I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, I eat healthy, completely clean. My water's clean. I do frequency healings, I'm exercising, doing my hot yoga, like, I'm sorry, I'm walking the talk. Do it now.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like,
It's fascinating.
uh-huh.
Fascinating. I mean, I just think life just gets better and better and better the wiser we get. And I think I mentioned to you that I have had a couple of, near death things. I think
No. Oh.
did I can't remember what I
Okay,
told you.
go, go, go. Yeah, tell
Well,
me.
one is a young child, like probably 5,
Mhm.
and I choked on a piece of candy,
Oh, wow.
piece of hard candy. in catechism,
Oh,
even better.
wow.
The nuns gave us candy. And I remember the nuns saying, who's old enough, who's mature enough to have a piece of hard candy. You never give little kids hard candy because they can't,
Right.
it'll go down the throat. And exactly what happened to me, butterscotch. And I don't remember much. I mean, I was very little, I was a tiny little person. And I remember taking the piece of candy and it instantly slid down into my throat. And I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't mature enough to take the piece of candy. And I can't breathe. And that's okay. I think that's okay. I'm just tired. I'm gonna, lay down. And what I remember is kind of leaving my body and looking down and seeing my little body on the floor. And then the nun came over and grabbed me, picked me up in the force of her, I
Right. The Heimlich.
dislodged the Heimlich.
Yeah.
And
I'm
really
actually looking at it. So go ahead.
right. Yeah. And then really like then the whole rest of my childhood and all that stuff was like all new to me. And I remember thinking, I'm a weirdo and we all only know what's real to us inside of it. That's what I always find fascinating. Like I'll say, well, don't you get shivers all the time? And like my husband's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I do.
Oh,
And
yeah. I do all the
now I know that there's some sort of a spirit or ancestors. Usually I'll say hi dad or whatever, but I've had them my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I got them, I was like, oh, it's these intuition. I'd usually get them like when I would know something, like like it was like always like a little shiver of like, you're right. Like trust this. Like don't ignore it. Like, no, you're right. This situation is what it is. Like, even as a
Yes.
little
Oh,
girl.
I'm with you.
Right. And then and then as I got older and older and older and stranger and stranger,
Right.
and all my friends knew, like, go ask Liz, like she'll know what's going to happen to you, and I started studying, I pull a tarot card every day, I have crystals, I'm that person.
You're me too.
And
I adore you. I'm sorry.
I've always had this belief,
Uh-huh.
absolute belief, that I would have some sort of a strange death, some sort of accidental death, or some sort of odd death that would be early. Not
Mhm.
like I thought once I had lived past 5, I was like, oh, I've got a little while, but I had no vision to myself as an old person.
Mhm.
I had real obsessive thoughts that were very true to me, of leaving my husband in a lurch, of like him not knowing where the passwords to things were. Whenever I would go on a trip, I would give the envelope if something happens to me. He knew about this because we're 29 years together, and it was very real to me that something was going to happen to me, and he was
Right.
going to be left. That he was, I have always told him, either marry Matt Lair, who's his best friend, who's gay, but marry Matt Lair, he'll take care of you, or our
That's
friend Alex,
true.
because she's also great. So I was like, get another, I'm going to be dead. It didn't hurt me. It's just going to really devastate you. But also leaving him unable to run our life, especially as life became more and more online, because one of us did it and it was me, and he just wasn't interested. And the feelings were really coming like the last 3 or 4 years, like big,
Okay.
like this is, and also coinciding with this, creating this vehicle for myself. And I was like, oh, so just do it, just because I wanted, if I'm gonna die in a freak accident, I want to have had my last days be a good one, like that I felt proud of myself and good about myself and my life spent in
Yeah,
this.
because we all go, right?
Right, because we're all gonna go, and I was fine about it. But I anyway. So
I'm just
so
laughing here.
in June, we get off the train in New York, and we're walking up 7th Avenue, and my husband shoved me out of the way of a bus, almost taking off a bus rearview mirror, taking off my head.
Wow.
June 14th. And the stuff, the vibes, the flashes that I was getting up to that time were really intense,
Mm-hmm.
borderline scary to me. Like I was like, okay, like it's coming. I had begun wearing a protective a crystal of his that I had given to him as a present, but that he didn't really respond to. So I started wearing it as an amulet. I almost got in a car accident and didn't get in a car accident, stuff like that. Anyway, he shoved me away from the thing. And before I got on a ship in September, like something was telling me, you've got to get on this ship and you've got to break this cycle about leaving him and leaving him in the lurch. And so there was something about I needed to start this cycle of all this traveling and traveling without that fear, or it was going to prohibit me from ever enjoying these trips because I thought I wasn't coming back. And it wasn't that I was enjoying the trips, but I was like, it could be this, it could be now. I don't know.
Well,
I'm
it
not
was a
going to know.
subconscious thought that was running your show.
It was running my show. And so I was like, and you know what? It's gone.
It is gone.
It
I
is
was going to tell you that. So
gone. It is
may
just
I?
gone. I
Can I
can't
tell
touch
you?
it. I can't like,
No, can I tell you? Do I have permission?
sure.
So, and I just need to ask a question of spirit. So there was a dark cloud, right, that was over you at that point in time, and it wasn't from this lifetime. It was from a past lifetime that came to you in at the same age, and your husband, like it feels like to me, like your husband whisked it away, and part of that was when he saved you from the boat, from
From
the
the bus.
the bus, and then there's telling me, hold on. It's gone for all lifetimes. Like, it's never coming back, ever. Like, like, it's gone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the 2 of you did, and it was a co-creation of release of his, um help me, please? His I don't have a better word. His huge love for you, like, his love for you, the energy, the ball of love is so big that it pushed that energy, that dark energy away. It can't come back because his love for you is so strong, and also they're saying your love of self is so strong that the 2 of you together, it can't touch you.
Yeah, fascinating.
Can't touch you.
Well, and subsequently, well, before I was getting on the Celebrity Ascent, I was up
Mhm.
here packing. It's quite I got to pack. You can only imagine packing for 2 shows and like what I'm gonna.
Right. Oh, no, I had a yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. And he was downstairs watching football, and so familiar sound in the house. And I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I caught a vision of myself in the future as an
Mhm.
older woman with the sounds of the football downstairs. And I was like, oh wow, it's gone. I am going to outlive him. I don't have to worry about that situation anymore. And I was like, it's gone.
So you can actually co-create, which is what my husband and I did. We're leaving the earth together at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great.
Well,
That'd be
we
great.
just decided it when we first met. Like, if you, which I know you can, manifest what you want through the phases of the moon, why can't you manifest how you leave the earth?
Right.
So we're leaving with ease and grace.
Well,
When we did, like,
I hope so. Yes, yes.
no,
You will.
choose, right? I'm choosing. Leave the earth with ease and grace when I'm ready, and we do it together, and the whole family's doing it because nobody wants to be without the other one.
Right, right. No, that's a wonderful way to look at it.
And if I'm wrong, okay. But if I'm like, I don't have to worry about it because that's what I'm manifesting. And if I'm right, even better.
Right. Well, I was just glad. I was glad to get the word of like you can leave that burden down, like lay that burden down, like don't carry that one with you.
Mhm.
And so I do feel like this is a new time for me, and it is a trip, like getting like I didn't have any vision to myself of like being an older person, and I took okay care of myself. I was in show business, so I had to take some care of myself, but I'm like, oh wow, so like now I really like, oh, let's see what's wrong with me.
Well, and we all get stuff, right? And it's
Right.
okay. It's a lesson and it teaches us how to do things differently. And some of these things we bring on and some of them we really don't. Some of them, I mean, ultimately we bring it onto our field, but I mean, like I just look at some of the things that which I'm not going to spend too much time on this show talking about, but we're electrical beings, right? You understand that. And when if
Oh,
you
absolutely.
Okay, so have you ever read the book called The Invisible Rainbow?
No.
So it's a phenomenal book, and it talks about the history of electricity. And the most recent chapter that I was listening to, my husband's further along on the book than I am, but was talking about the meridians, which is, based in traditional Chinese medicine, which, I've been, studying that for a long time. But one of the things that they said that I thought was really interesting is that the meridians are like the electrical circuit.
Yeah.
So that's why we are walking, breathing antennas, which I've always referred to myself as a walking, breathing antenna, but we literally are one.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
because of those meridians. And so when those meridians, when you have an energy block that gets turned off, that's why we start to have dis-ease, because those meridians, you can't get the energy flow from the brain to the rest of the body, or the heart to the rest of the body. And so, but he describes that in addition to showing us the history of electricity in relationship to disease, because as they rolled out um, electricity, all the different types of lights, the 5G, the 2G, 4G, 5G, and now 10G, like we've had these disease states that have um, encompassed worldwide disease that you couldn't possibly have in Spain and here, and that's the same disease.
Yeah.
So
Fascinating.
when you start to
Fascinating.
understand the only common denominator is the frequency, and you're a frequency being, you're like, oh, got it. I have the wrong programming.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that they did, and Andrew listened to, I read part of it, but Andrew listened to it, and I have to go back. But basically, they had all these people that were sick. And so, they did the breathing thing on the person, they didn't get sick, and then somebody literally licked the other person's face, and they wouldn't get sick because the frequency wasn't there. And they were sick. I mean, so it's poking holes at the germ theory
Right. 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 Right.
and bringing in reality to terrain.
Oh, thank you for the recommendation. I will check it out.
Oh,
I'll
it's
check it out.
amazing. And so it really empowers us to look at things differently. And oh, Nan says so true. Hi, Nan.
Well, and one thing I want to tell you, before I know we're winding out here, but there is
Oh,
one moment before that we start our cycle again in this new moon thing. And so at the end of the waxing of the waning crescent, this like the
please.
doldrums, like if you're out on the ship and like oh god, right before the new moon, it's the night before the new moon, and the mystics call it the dark moon, and
Okay.
it's just this moment to reflect of like what deep dark part of me can I, first of all, the best way it would be just to make peace with it,
Yeah.
to make peace with it and know that it's a part of you. But also any of those, the shame thing, any of the trauma things, like what could you let go, because those are the really hard ones, that if you can make the space in your life without them, that's when the real growth can come in. And that's the dark moon. It's not technically a phase, but it's just like this one, it's like this whiff of a moment right before the moon goes to new, and then we start it all over again.
Is
And
that
it's
what
a
they're calling the old moon on there? It's really
probably the old moon,
old,
yeah, the
but that
dark, and
your
we call it
dark
the
moon,
dark
old
moon,
moon.
yeah.
Got it.
And then it goes to the new moon, and then back into our phases, and it just keeps happening, and it keeps happening, and it keeps happening. And that's the great metaphor, is that you just keep going, you just keep going, and every month you have this new chance to, you have a natural cycle that's telling you to do something. And as I said, the more I aligned myself with the rhythms of them, and did a bit of a ritual, because I was not really a religious person, but I was looking for a practice, just to,
Mhm.
because I'm a practicer.
Me too.
I'm a musician and a singer and actor, so, and we practice, and the more you practice things, you get, funny how it happens, you get better at them. And so I was looking for a practice, and I do recommend this as a practice. I mean, I do it. I try to do it every day. I mean, there are definitely days that it just doesn't happen. But I'm always aware of the moon. There's so much good information out there. You can get an app. I know where the moon is hanging in the sky, when I'm going to see it, what astrological sign it's in. There's a whole study with that, and how the planets also affect the
There's
moon.
so oh.
Right. So our full moon that we're having this weekend is in the sign of Virgo, because we are in Pisces season. So it'll be a Pisces new moon, and it's always whatever is direct opposite on the astrological chart, and that's a Virgo full moon. The Virgo full moon is really good for getting things organized, and also like decluttering your life. So the more I've delved into that, I also try to add some of the astrology stuff, but it's the least of my witchy tricks. It really is the astrology part of
Oh,
it.
we should have you back to talk more. I mean, because like this is
Well,
fun.
I don't know so much about the astrology, but it
Even
is. I'm
so,
trying to start incorporating it, because you do see certain patterns in the way the energy of the moons carry us forward. Also according to the seasons, and
mm,
that's why I believe that this is such a strong practice, because it is so aligned with what is naturally happening.
yeah. And if we stay to our roots, or which roots is really not a good word, but if we stay connected to our earth and our universe, right, and listen to those moments and that heartbeat,
Hmm.
um, then we can, I think, really live with intention and on purpose.
Well, in the moon, the moon is the part of your really controls your intuition, like the things that you just know. And the water, so that feeling, and the water is your emotion. In the tarot deck, the cups are your emotions, and that it has the
Mhm.
element of water. And it definitely, the moon has that watery feeling, and we're all fascinated with the moon, because the
Mhm.
moon is always there. It's a huge part of our influence, but we sometimes can't see it. So we're all thinking about the sun, but the moon's there no matter what.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing, and I just got pinged, and I'm gonna see what I can do here. Yeah, so I'm gonna open up this screen. Speaking of which, so and it's part of what makes it so cool, like you and Michelle. So Michelle Froge, the rock star coach, is having a healing circle tonight for like $11 and 11 cents.
Oh, I like that for her. Oh, I wish I could go.
I wish you could too, and I'm gonna invite everybody right now because it's we're we're basically she says our world is in need of love and we're in need of healing. And so you know this. I mean, we just heal better and recover better when we do things in community, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's just this thought of this energy. Like, if you think of that, everything that you do is, you're controlling the energy behind it, and it's like the theory of like asking people to pray for you or whatever. Like, you have this energy coming in. Like, who hasn't posted a thing on Facebook, and like, like you're having a blue day, so you post something on Facebook, like, get all the love back at you. If you believe in the powerful exchange of energy, which basically is my religion, is this positive exchange,
Right.
doing it in a group, and doing it in a circle where we're all seeing each other, I'm a fan.
Yeah, I am too. I've done a lot of healing circles. Um where the last major one I did, we brought in probably about 1,000 people
Mm.
to heal somebody who was on his deathbed, and now he's doing what he does. And which is he's a sound healer. And so I really I look, I mean, you can't ignore, like, especially if you get on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or any of that, people are hurting right now.
Yeah.
And so to me, I've never, and I mean never, seen anything more powerful than prayer. And I understand nutrition, frequency, and those things help, and those things get you on the way. But when you pray and you are anchored in with spirit, there's nothing more powerful because then you don't have to question which way to go.
Right. Right.
And so, um, the other thing is where are you playing next? Like,
Well, I don't really have anything until the summer. I'm going to do Moondance
okay,
actually in upstate New York. I have got a call from a theater there. I'm going to do 3 dates. So I'm developing it, and I'm the first when you saw it on the ship was the first time I'd actually added the visuals to it.
that
And
was
so,
cool.
right. And I'm really actually kind of trying to manifest. I reached out to a photographer that I like on Instagram, but I can't find him in the world. So I put into his direct messages, and I think he thinks I'm probably a stalker. But I would love to celebrate, or some sort of some artist in some way. And so I'm
So
playing
you're
around with some of
looking for
those
a
visuals.
photographer.
Either photographer, I wouldn't mind photographer, and this photographer is in New Jersey, which is where I am. So it'd be how I see the actual moon, because I think an actual picture of the moons in these faces, but I also would be open to an artistic, like a drawing or a painting. So I'm kind of playing around with that because a lot of the ships have these huge projection screens that they urge you to learn to use. I had ordered added projections for my Linda Ronstadt show. That was the first time I'd had the 45s
Yeah,
of
that
all of
was
her.
just amazing.
Right. So those have been growing. So I'm still kind of doing this, and then I have a lot of cruises coming up, and I'll be doing Traverse City Opera House and my Linda Ronstadt show in the fall, but really nothing for the next few months until I see what finds me. I'm I'm healing a cancer on my face, so I've kind of been kind of ducking out of performing right now because I'm really not wearing any makeup,
Yeah,
and
and you look like you're healing well.
it's
So
healing so beautifully. I'm in awe of my skin and what it's able to do, and I'm making peace with it because I'm going to have this. That's for some, it's going to be a part of me, and it's also made me realize how vain I am.
well, it's interesting. I had gotten the chicken pox, and I've used this patch that sends a signal to my brain for healing my skin imperfections. And my legs, which were all hacked up from the chicken pox, are now rapid healing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just
Uh,
I'm just kind of I feel like I can sit and watch the cells of my skin work. They're like, okay, we're trying, we're working. I know you want to get back to work. It's been a really good. I don't allow myself time to heal, and like when I got off of the Celebrity Ascent, so I did my Linda Ronstadt show twice in one night, and had a rehearsal that afternoon, and then I did my Moondance show the next day. And then I got off the ship and I drove across the state of Florida and I did my Linda Ronstadt, my big show 3 times.
wow.
And
Yeah,
when
you
I can,
gotta yeah.
and it's so much singing, and singing is so physical. And it was all during the kind of dramatic weather also that I was having travel drama. And
Right.
I got home and it was 5 days before my cancer surgery. And I was just like, I have nothing left. I'm just going to rest. And so I've actually been home for the last couple of weeks and really allowing myself to kind of like old fashioned rest, like lay on my bed like a teenager and read a book in the afternoon, like which I don't do.
Well, so neither did I, and so that's what my husband and I did. So we took our honeymoon, but before that, which was delightful, it was the most amazing experience of my life. Prior to that, the next most amazing experience was going to Blue Ridge Mountains, Georgia,
Yeah.
and we just hung there. We're kids, we're really kids, and then I wrote most of my book up there, but in between, um, just like sitting on, like being silly, doing nothing,
Yeah.
and
So it's
sleeping in
been
till 10. So I'm very called to do this. Um, you don't know who my brother is. And while I'm not in communication with him right now, I'm very called to tell you. Um, so first of all, he used to be the photographer for the stars until 9/11, and he became the official photographer for 9/11. He is an amazing soul. At the age of 12, he got a Kodak Award.
Oh.
Hmm. He's not trained. It's his gift. You get it. And of course, Barnes and Noble picked him up, and and him in his book, because, and he worked with all the firefighters, with all the first responders, and in a way that honored everyone involved. We'll just leave it at that. Like, he didn't exploit anybody. He really handled things with love and care and compassion and grace. And he's a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal photographer. And I'd like to see him now move from that trauma to fun drama, right? From trauma to fun drama. And so his museum is Ground Zero Museum, and he's in the meatpacking district of New York City. And if you're called to, his name is Gary Marlin Susan, and I'll send it to you. But he captures things like it's nobody's business.
Oh, he might have some moon pictures for me, right?
He might not. He might capture them for you, like, he might just go out there and do it. And he doesn't really know it, but he's a channel.
Mm.
So all the pictures that he took from 9/11, he came to our alma mater in Barrington High School, and he brought the museum to the high school. They recreated it there. And so I was listening to the voiceovers because he's got an amazing voice. Not singing, but although he might sing, I don't know. So he did all the voiceovers for all the images, and I'm like, damn, he's channeling the dog. He's channeling this one. He's a channel. Like, it because there was a different energy that was present for each one. And it was for anybody who works in energy, it's undeniable.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't work in energy, I get it, So so I will send you
Fascinating. Well, I wrote it down too.
Yeah.
Well, and my fervent wish before we is that you or anyone will, by listening to this or a little bit of thing, like, you'll look up at the moon and you'll look at it in a different way.
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Like, anchored in. I'm so excited that you taught me and everybody who tuned in. And of course, we'll be making clips of this to get people excited and learn more.
Yeah, then you'll become a Selenophile. Selenophile. So the goddess of the moon is Selene, Selene.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
if you're
that.
a moon lover, you're a Selenophile.
I have, like, I think 7. I'm not going to speak it right, but I think I have like 7 houses in the moon. Like, I'm I'm a psychic surgeon according to my
Your
astrology.
astrology chart. You have a lot of houses in interesting.
In the
I'd
moon.
be curious to see your chart. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. I don't know how to read it.
Yeah, they're very, as I said, I am a new student too, but it's a fascinating thing. And the other thing is, like, if you fill your life with the energy of the things that you like and that excite you, you have no option but to have a wonderful life and to feel good.
Yeah.
And it's so easy.
Yeah, and they have trust, right?
Yeah,
and just close that door, and that's in the gibbous phase.
In the waning phase, any of the waning phases. So after the full moon, on the left side, as you've crossed over the hump, you go waning gibbous, last quarter, waning crescent. The waning, like, let it go.
Let it go, right. So if you're willing to close doors, I promise you, God will open up other doors for you, but you have to be willing to close these doors. And I just feel like somebody really needs to hear this. So I'm just going to, whoever it is that's listening, whatever door you've been hesitant to close, they're telling me you absolutely need to close it, like, quickly, because they have something really cool for you behind door number 2.
Right. You just have to, you can only do you only have so much room. And how long are you going to carry some things? So it's, yeah, it's just a fascinating, it's a, and it's not for everybody, but it's certainly been fun for me.
And I have my 415 calling, which I
Goodbye.
bye.
Thank
I'm so
you.
grateful for you.
Grateful for you too. Thank you for the honor. I had a wonderful time.
Mwah. Bye. And I'm gonna mute that and end that stream.